In this video, I'll be showing you how I pause underperforming meta ads in one click from Slack using n8n. This video is primarily for meta ads, media buyers, agency owners, performance creative strategists running meta ads, and businesses running meta ads itself. If you're running meta ads, you want to make sure at any point of time you understand the cost efficiency of your ads, and you want to pause non-performing ads as soon as they show themselves. This is what I have in Slack. Every single week, I'll get this automated message to show me the top performing creatives with the lowest CPL, and I'll also get a section with the underperforming creatives. Creatives is green here. These are the ad names, and it shows me what the CPL is. This is the spends, and it has gotten 2 leads. So this creative has spent $80. It has gotten 2 leads. There's also a button you can click here which redirects you to see the ad itself. It also hypothesizes why they worked so that you can potentially create more creatives that are well performing. The ads you're looking here is just dummy data, but let's just assume that it's for a music school called JJ Music, which is my music school. The most important thing about this automation is that it shows underperforming creatives with the highest CPL. This specific creative has spent $210 with 0 leads. This creative has spent $185 with 0 leads. It also has the benchmark average of what an average cost per lead is. This is cost per lead of $40, which is 44% above the average. And for the underperforming creatives, with one single click over here, when you click any of these buttons, it will then connect to the Facebook API and immediately pause the ad. You can click any of these one by one, or you can click this master button here which says pause all underperformers, and in one single click you can pause all meta ads which are not performing. After you press this button, you'll then get an automated message like this which says hi JJ_admin, which is me, confirming this ad has been paused. This is a simple automation to stop wasting ad spends on vampire ads without checking the dashboards 24/7. It's also to bridge the gap between raw performance data and creative content. It's also to build a permanent vault of every creative to run, indexed by its script and performance. So if I can give you a glance over here, right? These are all the ads that I'm running. Of course, these are all dummy data, right? But every single creative is broken down based on its hook. This others column here describes generally what the ad is about. Remarks, for some reason, I think I populated a transcript over here in column H. My code is also not working to populate the transcript. It's going to column H instead. This automation breaks down the hook of every single ad. For example, this specific creative over here, it is a video that opens with a frustrated student staring at complex sheet music, followed by a transition to a colorful gamified app interface with a text, hate reading sheet music. Every single creative, right, is then broken down into descriptive labels so that the large language model is then able to describe to you why a specific ad is working or not. So why did I build this automation? I recently jumped on a call with someone spending thousands of dollars a day on meta ads. When you launch a new ad within an ad set, right, the ad set budget was at like maybe 5 to 10k per day. The moment the person launched the ad in that high spending ad set, 90% of all the ad spends went towards a new ad, right? It was late at night, people went to sleep. A couple of days later, they realized that when they're running their meta ads, the results and leads dropped. Then when we checked the dashboard, I then managed to see that the new ad that was launched took about 90% of the total account spend in that ad set itself. The bad thing is that all the money went there, but it did not register any leads. So the cost per lead was extremely high. The new ad was a total dud. It burned through the budgets with 0 results before a human even had a chance to look at the dashboard. Just a disclaimer here, I'm not the one running the ad in this case, right? I find it very painful to see clients spend thousands of dollars per day if their agency or their partner or they do not check the ads maybe every other day or so. This really resulted in a mistake that cost thousands of dollars. And let's say if you go to the levels of spending 100k per day, that's literally 10k an hour. And if you're spending $10,000 an hour, that's more of like the Olympics of media buying, in my opinion. And that's where I got the inspiration to then create this kind of automation. It can fire every single week, or it actually can fire every single 5 hours or so, depending on how fast your meta ads are spending. So if you're, let's say, spending like 5k per month, 10k per month, maybe this kind of automation is not very helpful. Doesn't need to necessarily fire every single day. But if you're spending, let's say, 5k per day, 10k per day, this is an automation that can definitely solve a lot of problems for you. I also understand recently, like, there's a lot of tools out there like Cloudflare where it's able to do Facebook ads research. It's able to like launch ads for you, right? In full transparency, 1, I'm not very strong at Cloudflare yet, but 2, when it comes to media buying and interacting with the APIs, right, you need to be extremely sensitive. If you don't know exactly what your agent is doing, right, it might go crazy, right? And when it comes to media buying, we are talking about real ad spends. I'm still in the midst of exploring Cloudflare as such tools, but for now, I fully created everything for this n8n workflow. One, because I'm better in n8n. I truly understand every single part of the code to know that there's no crazy things that the LLM can do. Because when it comes to account credentials, security is the most important thing, right? If your access token for your Facebook app goes into the internet, right, someone could literally just grab it, spend your ad dollars on their business. I'm still sticking with n8n for now before I explore solutions when it comes to Cloud Opus and Meta Ads. Some additional reasons why this automation might be helpful. You essentially are optimizing your campaigns just by using Slack. Slack, I believe, is what most people work with, and you can just literally not even go to the ads platform to optimize your campaigns. It unlocks AI-powered strategy, right? So I'm actually using Gemini. I'm basically asking Gemini to watch every single ad, and it gives out the hook, remarks, others, and then you also have a repository of all your non-performing ads, and probably you can also put a column of performing ads. So imagine if you're, let's say, running ads for the whole year, right? You have a clear documentation of all the ads that have worked, right? So essentially, you can literally compile all your best performing ads and just feed all your best performing ads to AI, and then have AI create more ads that are like your best performing ads. So this serves as a very nice way to document every single ad that you're running throughout the year. Let's get straight into this n8n build. There are actually 5 workflows. Workflow 1 is a fetcher. It automatically extracts 7-day performance data plus custom metrics from Meta API. So let me show you the first workflow. The first workflow starts with a schedule trigger. It can be every week, it can be every 5 hours, it can be every 10 hours. The time duration I've chosen for now is every 7 days. If let's say you're spending 10k per day, 15k per day, or 30k per day, right, I might probably set this notification to be refreshed every maybe 3 or 4 hours. Once it fires, it goes to this node where it actually deletes everything over here, because when you want to refresh the data, you want to start with 7 days of fresh data. We then move on to a HTTP request which pulls data for the past 7 days. So you can see here, I'm using this get request here, and I'm using insights here. The most important thing is to replace your ad account ID. You need to have a Facebook app token tied to this. I'm extracting things on the ad level, and these are the fields that I'm extracting. I'm also wanting to extract video views, 15-second video views, 3-second video views, and the most important thing to also extract would be the ad ID over here. The date preset, you can actually set it to 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. I think a 7-day preset, it's just nice for this account. After this triggers, we then have this code node turns the data from the HTTP request into more structured data into these 15 items. So these 15 items are then sent to the template sheet over here. I then sort the data based on spends so that I can see the ad that spent the most to the least, and this data is then sent to Google Sheets. It should appear something like this. So you can have the ad ID over here. The day is 7 days before. Campaign name, ad set, ad name, impressions amount, outbound clicks. The additional metrics that you see here are hook rate and hold rate. How is this calculated by? This is calculated from this node over here. There should be a formula here that calculates cost per lead, hook rate, hold rate, and conversion rate. So that's the summary of the first workflow. The second one is the archivist. It detects new live ads and mirrors the video files to permanent Cloudflare R2 storage. This is the second workflow over here. If I click into it, this HTTP request extracts the live ads per campaign. So you can see here, there's actually a campaign ID that you need to replace. I know that for every media buyer, there's many different kinds of ways to run automation. I've just simplified the automation to run one line of code per campaign. You can populate the campaign ID here, and you can see the filtering is the one that's important. Effective status, operator in, the value needs to be active. So feel free to copy this. These here are all the ad ID of ads that are live. So after that, I have a split out node to then split out all the ad IDs into separate items. I then have a merge node which keeps non-matches. This node here gets the database of past analyzed live ads, right? So I'm referring to this database over here. So let's assume that this is completely empty, right? If this is completely empty, this means that this merge node, right, would then send over all 15 ads over here. But because there's 13 items over here and there's 15 ads here, this means there are 2 ads that has not been documented in this ads ID sheet over here. Because there's only 13 ads here, Meta is telling me there's 15 ads. This means there are 2 ads, and the 2 ads you can see here, they have these 2 ad IDs. That's where they move on to being documented. What do I mean documented? I then have this workflow to extract all live ads. You can see here there are 15 live ads and there are only 13 ads in the database. 2 ads move forward, and then this begins a loop node. Once this loop node begins, it then gets the ads that are not analyzed. So it basically creates an ads ID and then creates a status over here. So if I run this, right, for now, I must say it's extremely troublesome to create this on dummy data. But let me just run through with you how it works, right? So if this node runs, right, it will essentially create the ad ID over here, and it will then create an ad here which is pending analysis, and this matches what I see on the workflow over here. So once this is created, if you don't know, Meta has an ad ID, Meta has a creative ID, Meta has a video ID. These three are like in sequential order. After you get the ad ID, you can then only get the creative ID. After you get the creative ID, then you get the video ID, and the video ID is where there's the good stuff. It's the video itself, right? So let me show you this from a workflow standpoint. After this, I have a HTTP request, right, that gets all your ads accounts available. This is the request I'm sending. So based on this, you're able to see the access token per page, and this is where you want to get the page token. In full transparency, I might be a little bit confused with page tokens and user tokens. Based on what I've tried so far, the page token is what you need to extract the video itself. So you have the ad ID. The next thing I need to do is get the creative ID. So this node here gets the access token per page. Once I get the access token of all the pages, I just want to filter for the specific account that I want the access token for. So in this case, I've put here the fictitious brand JJ Music School. So ideally, I have a page which says JJ Music School. The next thing I do is then get a creative ID. The creative ID, you can then use this HTTP request to then put the ad ID over here. And then you can see the fields here, I've requested it to give me the creative ID. Keep in mind, you need to make sure authentication is done properly. After you get the creative ID, it would then look something like this metric over here. So you can see here in this column, there's an ad ID and a creative ID. Ad ID and creative ID are completely different things. So that's why in this workflow, I get the creative ID. After I get the creative ID, I want to get the video ID. So this is where I make a get request as well based on this URL. And then I have all these fields over here. So I want the name, I want the object type, I want the image URL, I want the video ID, I want the thumbnail URL. For video ads analysis, right, the most important thing you want is the video ID. For this HTTP request, this is where I use the access token based on the page token that I've extracted earlier that is relevant to JJ Music School. So this is the code that I've used for now. After you run this node, you'll then get the video ID. So after you output the video ID, I have then an if-then statement to check that is this a video or not. I then have a next merge node over here, and you can see here that I merge the data that I have over in this ads ID over here. Why do I do that? Because one creative ID can be shared by multiple ads ID, and if one creative ID is shared between multiple ads ID, I don't want to send it for analysis again, because every time I send a video for analysis to the AI, right, it will cost me API tokens. So I only want to send ads that are unique to one another. And that's the whole purpose of why I have this merge node over here. If the creative ID does exist, right, it means that I've already analyzed the creative in the past. But if it's false, it means that the creative ID does not exist. And that's where I proceed to get the raw URL of the particular Facebook ads that I want to analyze. This is the HTTP request over here. Similarly, I then make a request to the video ID directly itself. These are the parameters that I've set, and the access token is based on a page token that I've extracted earlier based on a specific page that the ad comes from. So after that, I then download the URL into a binary file onto n8n, and this is where I think it's important I upload it to Cloudflare. It's because the URL that Facebook gives you will only be a temporary one. So my opinion is that you need to download it or upload it to Google Drive or upload it to Cloudflare storage. Feel free to replace this with whatever you want, but I think that using Cloudflare is a lot easier because essentially it's like a public video link that anyone can access. On a later workflow, I then send this video to Gemini for analysis directly. So this keeps it easy for documentation purposes. In this template over here, column D, all these are permanent links, right? Because once you extract the link from Meta, it will only be available for like 6 to 12 hours. Once you get the fresh URL, I think it's best to convert it. And the good thing is about Meta videos, right? They actually compress the ad for you, because I think a trouble I had in the past is that some advertisers would send me video creatives which are like a few hundred MB, and that's definitely too much. After that, I then append and update the row, and you can see here I'm matching the ads ID. There is a status which is pending analysis. If you're still following in this video, I made an error previously. For this here, getting ads that are not analyzed, this actually needs to be not analyzed because the sheet here is not analyzed. After that, it then updates it to pending analysis. So when it's pending analysis, it means that it's ready to be sent to the LLM for analysis. And you can see here the video link is something that I've created dynamically to create a link over here. Up to this point, you have column A to D. Basically, once you have column A to D, right, you are ready to generate everything from column F, G, H, I. The third workflow is a transcriber. It sends the R2 video. R2 is the Cloudflare R2 storage, right? It sends the R2 video to Gemini to extract the hook, script, and visual purpose. And if it's your first time watching this video, I encourage you to watch this video. This is essentially the same workflow I'm using. I'm sending all the ads to Gemini for analysis. It then breaks down the ad into these categories accordingly, which will be helpful to understand why a particular creative worked or not. This is workflow 3. It starts with a schedule trigger every single day. And then you can see here, I get the rows of ads that are pending analysis. So if I press execute step over here, it will then return to me 11 creatives that are pending analysis. This means that for the creatives that are pending analysis, right, all this would be blank. Only after when I send it to Gemini responsibility is then to populate all these information about the particular ad itself. As of today's date, the current API limitation is 20 per day. So if you're not paying and want to do this for free, Gemini can only analyze 20 videos for you or 20 creatives per you per day. So once you click loop over items, it downloads the link. The downside is this link I'm using is just dummy data. That's why it's not working. Once you download the video, you upload it to Gemini. This is the API URL I'm using. I'm using a post request, and you need to get your Gemini API key and put it using query authentication. And then you send a body, which is just a binary file. After you upload it to Gemini, you give it some time to process it, and you get the status of it. This is a specific example, and it needs to say that the state of the video is active before it proceeds. After the state of the video is active, as you can see here, moving on to the next node, there's a prompt node here, but I must say actually this node is sort of irrelevant. I'll just click straight to the HTTP request over here. This is the exact prompt I used in my very first YouTube video on this channel, so feel free to copy it. But the most important thing is that you want to request it to return you data in a structured manner. And then you have a code node to then clean up everything. It basically extracts the output of the LLM into a hook, purpose, text captions, and disclaimer. It then sends it to the Excel sheet over here. So you can see here, ads ID, it matches the specific ads ID. It changes the status of this column over here, column B, into ads that have been analyzed before. And the hook, transcription, remarks, the disclaimer, I've changed it to others, right? So this is where I would say the prompt can definitely be improved. It's good enough for me, so I'm happy for now. After it updates the column, it then loops one time for every single ad. So if there's 8 ads here, it will then loop 8 times. So the end goal you want is to have something like this. This is the finished product of what you want, right? So this is a very clear documentation of every single ad that you run in your ads account. Meta Ads does not provide the qualitative and subjective and creative perspective of why an ad works or not. This then brings us to workflow 4, the strategist. It merges the data transcription. Gemini's identify the top 3 and bottom ads and sends an interactive report Slack. So this is a manual trigger here, but I would say this can be changed in the schedule trigger. The first thing it does, it gets the 7 days of ads data and it gets the data over here. It then filters away ad spends where the ad has not spent more than $50. This really depends on what you want. Maybe you want a minimal threshold of $100 or $500. Every single advertiser's amount is slightly different over here. The next thing it does, it then gets the transcription and hooks of all the active ads, right? So you can see I get all my data over here. Why? From a simple layman standpoint, I have an ads ID over here. Each of these ads ID you see here can then be matched to a specific ad you see here. So essentially, you're just combining this table and this table together. So this combines everything, you aggregate everything, you then merge it over here, and this is where you prepare the perfect payload you want for your LLM to analyze for you. So you can see here, this is the prompt I've used an AI to create. You can see here on the right, there's actually a calculation of the benchmark average cost per lead. I believe I've done this using a node over here. So this code node over here, you can see the total spends, total leads, total impressions, average CPL, average hook rate, average hold rate. Hook rate is just a custom metric I've created. It takes 3-second views divided by impressions. Hold rate takes 15-second views divided by 3 seconds. This is the creative's ability to hold people to watch until the 15-second mark. The hook rate is the percentage of people who stop in their scroll to watch for at least 3 seconds. So in layman terms, it just measures the creative's ability to stop people when scrolling their Instagram feed or Instagram stories. The most beautiful thing you want to see is this data set over here. You are just essentially combining this data set together with this data set. All these solutions by Claude, my perspective, right, is that they can analyze numbers for you. But if you want to transcribe your ads, the thing is Meta does not give you the information to the ad itself, right? So that's where I have an additional layer in this automation to extract out the content of the ad you're running, because I inherently do believe 100% that creative is the main lever to make your meta ads successful or not. You can look at this beautiful data and then it outputs something like this. The top performers are this campaign name, ad set name, ad name. So it structures it very nicely and it's due to this structured output parser that I'm using. So I've actually provided it an example. All these are dummy data. If I want to structure it nicely for Slack, I need it to be nicely outputted in a manner that I can use in Slack. So this code node over here essentially translate everything into Slack blocks. Slack blocks is essentially a way for you to automate beautiful looking things on Slack. So what I've showed you earlier is just a perfect example, right? So essentially all this code over here you see is then translated to something like this. Something very simple. It doesn't necessarily have to be like top and like super beautiful, and you can actually edit it how you want to look like. So these are just simple stuff I've put in, but if you want more metrics, like I want the full sentence, I want a full transcript of this, right? You can actually put it over here, because the data source that the LLM is using is based on this data source combined with the data that is actually achieved. After you send it, this is where the magic happens, where, okay, I can click pause on this. So I'm also using n8n for this, right? So what I do is I actually set up a custom Facebook app. Then you need to click on interactivity and shortcuts and put your n8n webhook over here. When you put a webhook over here, any button you click over here, the information is then sent accordingly. So when I click on this button, right, this will then trigger a webhook to be sent to my last n8n workflow, which is this one over here. The last n8n workflow is the executioner, a Slack webhook that listens for button clicks and instantly pauses the ads via Meta API. So you can see here, once I get a webhook, you'll get a payload something like this, right? So all this you see here are dummy data. It looks extremely messy, and that's the reason why we need to have a edit field node to then take out the most important stuff, which is the payload. After you have the payload, it's still very messy, right? I then have a code node that extracts all these messy information into very structured, beautiful data like this. So you can see here, the most important thing is the action, pause single add ID, add name. So with a single add ID over here, then you can actually just make a simple HTTP request to Meta to say that I want to pause this ads. I'm using this very simple HTTP request, add ID over here. I've also put the necessary authentication in place, and then the body status paused. After that, that's where I then send a Slack message to say that, hey, blah 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 name, confirming this specific ad has been paused. And this is exactly what you see over here. So that's essentially one functionality of the million functionalities that you can sort of automate on n8n. And therefore, I also understand why a lot of people love to use MCPs, because essentially when you use MCPs, right, you just tell the Facebook MCP linguistically what you want to do and it'll do it for you. It's just, I would say, the paranoid side of me. It's just wanting to be a little safe, because for now, as you can see in the automation, right, there's actually a button which says scale top performers or generate brief. So the future possibilities of this automation, right, is that I can actually tell the Meta Ads platform, I can create a separate workflow to then increase my budgets. So let's say if I click scale top performers, maybe it scales the ad set budgets by maybe 10%, 20%. Of course, this really depends on how you set out the campaigns, because at the end of the day, you need to think in a very structured manner to make sure that AI doesn't go out of hand. And that's my fear for now for using all these cloud MCPs, because when we deal with ad budgets, it is money. So if it's money, you want to make sure you truly understand what the AI is doing at any point of time. Maybe I can share a separate story. I have one client whose ad account got hacked. So it turns out the hacker did not make one adjustment. It made several other adjustments which we did not find, right? So similarly, my fear is that maybe some MCPs will make some adjustments on ad set level, ad layer, ad placement, targeting accordingly, and you don't even know if you don't tell it what to do, or if you don't know the code inside out, or if you don't know the API in a very clear manner, you might get screwed, right? So this is the fear I'm using. These kind of automations, it's very, very safe, because in a sense, the AI cannot do anything else. These are the main functionalities of it. Other potential considerations for this workflow, it can generate a brief. Previously, I've made a workflow which generate unlimited video ads. I could literally create a workflow to just press generate brief, and then a video would get generated. And whether I use Nano, Banana, Kling, or VO3, or all these video generation tools, right, it then gives me a public link, and maybe I can put a separate workflow to then just click launch ads accordingly, and the cycle will then repeat over and over again. So essentially, you're running your Meta Ads account from Slack. The results you get a one-click governance. Very simple. You don't even need to go to the ads platform. Just one click, you know that you have paused your poor performing ads. It's a creative flywheel. You quickly identify patterns, specific hook that works. And as you can see here, the most important thing is the documentation of your non-performing ads. And maybe you could even say for column K, there's performing ads accordingly. So for column J, right, let's say if you pause a non-performing ad, then there's also an additional node which then updates non-performing ad, yes. So you then have a consolidation of all your non-performing ads. If let's say you want an option to label performing ads, you can label them accordingly. So let's say this is a performing ad, this is another performing ad, this is another performing ad. So if you have more bangers, right, as in more great creatives you know has historically worked, it's all about DJing them to just run the same thing in a different manner. The hooks works, these kind of creative works, maybe this is from a specific UGC, right? So maybe it's all the more reason for you to employ a specific UGC to create more ads that are working well for you. It also has full accountability. Every pause action is logged in Slack, showing who paused what, and why. So if you can go back to the Slack automation, right, it will literally show you exactly which person caused the automation. Right? At the end of the day, accountability is the most important thing. You want to know who executed it, right? Or who allowed the AI to execute it. So you can see JJ admin is me. So if there's, let's say, team members, 5 team members, 10 team members, right, there's already a log on Slack, right, to see who adjusted, who triggered the automation already. So this provides full transparency. So this definitely provides media buyers a competitive edge. I think one more other thing to mention, weaknesses and considerations. Attribution lag. Meta can take 24 to 72 hours to settle, right? So you need to make sure you then act on the right data, right? Because it might not be the most accurate. And that's why I've put in precautions to make sure I filter out ad spends which have not spent at least $50 or $100 or whatever amount that might be for you. The API fragility, I would say this is true for any API. If Meta upgrades their API, then you definitely need to do some managing. The Google Sheets ceiling, if you have hundreds of ads, I think it's fine. For long-term documentation of ads, I would say it's really good to use a proper database, whether it's DB, Airtable, Supabase, Excel. I hate the API of this because the connection is always not very reliable. The last weakness is the AI cost and latency, right? Using Gemini to watch every video isn't free. There are marginal costs per ad analyzed, and video processing can take 30 to 60 seconds per file. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.